Hey, everybody, welcome to Tattooed in Business. I am your host, Brian Merrill, and this is Tattooed in Business, which is life through business and uh, general through the eyes of a Gen X male who has been in the sales game for over 20 years and have lived a lot of different uh, types of things through different types of things. And I've gone through quite some changes over the past few years and share my story and things that I've encountered. And hopefully we can help somebody out so that either you don't fall in the same pitfalls I have in life or you can find your way through some things through some help. Uh, so I want to, start right off with saying, thank you to everyone who comments and whatnot and does follow me and check me out. It really does mean a lot. I'm just getting started in all this, so by all means, like right now, you can comment live on any of the chats, whatever format you're watching it. So please feel free to do so. Check us out. I have the scroll going down below with our email and everything on it, and then of course I will be we'll uploading this to Podbean and everything else. So in case you miss it, if you like what you see, by all means, tell somebody about it, like it, share it, and please, feel free to comment at any time. All right. So this week's topic, uh, I wanted to talk about two different ones: sales etiquette and then intensity. So these are things that sometimes you think would go without saying, and I witnessed something this week that I see the sales etiquette as some of it as common sense, and maybe it's not so much for everybody and whatnot, but to me it always was. So dive right in is so just the other day I had to wound up touring someone of one of our properties and businesses of what we do and explain to them the different procedures and whatnot. And I'm not the salesperson in this. There's another person that's handling this, and I'm one of the partners, so I tour them through the place and everything. And when the person first gets there, first of all, I realized that um, they haven't told the person exactly what they just tell them we can do everything, and then present like we do everything in house. Well, there's certain things you can't do in house or are very expensive to do in house, and one of them is full sublimation uniforms. Uh, Very few places like us do this in house. We have places that we order from, and I'm going to tell you, chances are, and I don't give a crap if you're one of the biggest people and you're working for the Halos of the world or some of these other ones, you do not do this in house. You're a rep. You sub this out just like we all do. Most of it is done overseas. So sublimation is not something that you typically do on garments in house for someone. You're ordering it from a specialty place because the expense of the equipment and overhead and whatnot. So as I'm explaining to the person, their customer shows up. So I kill time, find out stuff about the customer that helps me get to know them, and then I do wind up taking them on tour. I noticed the whole time that I'm with this customer and this other salesperson. The other salesperson keeps checking their cell phone. Their cell phone's going off, and they literally keep looking down at it, looking down at it, looking down at it, to the point where, like, I guess I was under the impression that people understood that when you're with a customer, you don't do that. That you're supposed to be spending your time and your attention to them. Most of the time when I walk into a meeting, I've gotten in trouble for doing this. I don't take my cell phone with me. I don't just turn it off so that they don't hear it ring. I don't take it in with me because I'm there on that person's time and I need to respect that. So maybe it's not a, so it goes back to the whole, my philosophy of respecting your person's time that you're dealing with your customer. But I kind of thought that was a, known throughout every generation that you don't do that. And you don't, and you try not to name drop and you don't bash your competitions, another etiquette thing. Um, you know, it, I just, these things like, I guess I've always thought that those are common sense things and people know that. But the more I've been in, sales and more of a management side of it, I notice that a lot of salespeople either forget that or they don't realize that. So let me explain to this on a, human level. When I'm talking to you and you're checking my phone or you're checking your phone constantly, you're telling me that you really aren't engaged with me and you really don't give a shit about me and what I do because whatever's on that side of the phone is more important. I took my customers, delivered them their product in their hands right after finding out my son was in a car accident and totaled his freaking car. And that customer did not know what was happening at that moment when I left. He was safe. I already knew established he was safe and everything, but that's not their concern. Yes, they're not assholes. They're going to, hey, is everything okay? You do what you got to do. But reality is I'm taking care of them, and they don't need to know what's going on because my priority is them at that moment in time. And that's a little bit of an extreme. Remember, I already had the information knowing that everything was safe, everything was good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been there, you know. But I was just shocked to see this. That you would think that everyone knows this, but then when I think back in it, I've been in sales meetings, Zoom calls, and you hear people's phones going off. And I'm not talking about the dinging because their emails going off because they're on the computer. A lot of people just don't know how to turn off that notification temporarily, or they forgot about it. I'm talking when you see people literally looking at their phone, and for a lot of people, when these Zoom meetings started, like I was in a BNI group, you can literally see how disrespectful most of the people in the group were, checking their cell phone constantly. We had one girl who she's a real estate agent, and I don't mean to really harp on real estate agents, but I really honestly I think the real estate industry, most agents need a reality check and realize that they're not the most important people walking the face of the earth. But that's just because of working in that with those type of clients for an e-commerce site that was directed to them and the way they treated me and whatnot. So that's a little bit of my baggage. But this real estate agent, we literally watched her on the leadership team, and every morning when we did our Zoom meeting, she would log in, do her 60-second speech. I'm so great. Look at me. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Never send a referral, never nothing, and then get right off and not listen to anybody else. And we watched this go on for weeks. And then we noticed other people started doing it too. And they would magically just click off their camera so that, you know, you didn't know if they were there or not or whatnot. Some people do it for whatever reason, but most of the time they're doing it because they're hiding, you know, or something's going on in the background or distracting or whatnot. And that does happen in this day and age, and I get that, but there is an etiquette to it. So if I'm taking a meeting with you, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I have my room cleared, my, you know, who if I have someone answering the phones or anything, let them know I'm where I'm at and whatnot. And I'm trying to create it because when I'm in there with you, one, I do need to be focused on you for me to get the information I need to do to see if I can help you and how I'm going to help you and if it makes sense. And if I have all these interruptions, it can't happen. So I had a meeting. I've had actually 3 meetings now. So we have a new conference room set up and everything, and we shut the doors. And I'm not joking with if curiosity killed the cat, this person is out of their 9 fucking lives because every time I go in there and shut the door, we have like a little faux wall curtain that comes over, and then we have our coffee room behind there. That person magically needs to get coffee or magically needs something to the point where another coworker of mine stepped in and told Brian's in a meeting and shut the door in her face, and they were taken back, and they're just eavesdropping. You know what I mean? So you need to respect that. And when I go in a room or someone goes in a room and they shut the door, look, man, if you're supposed to be part of the conversation, you will be. If you need to be brought up to speed on it, then you will be. Don't get bent out of shape. If you're meant to be there, you'll be there. But have the business etiquette. Because if you don't show me that respect and that etiquette, then I'm not going to bring you in. I'm not going to have these, you know, need to even have you. I'll figure out a way that I don't need you and get rid of you because I can't stand that. And you have to reciprocate that. So the same person that's doing this to me, I'm literally in a meeting, didn't know they had a scheduled meeting because they just, you know, they don't share it with people. And so when their tour came around, I got up out of my stuff and I left my meeting that was not done and moved back to my office. I didn't go get coffee. I didn't ask how her meeting went. I didn't go interrupt in any way, shape, or form. if I was meant to know what was happening, then I would know what was happening. And sure enough, later that day, the owner brings me up to speed on what's going on and what my thoughts are on it and all this. And I didn't have to interject. I didn't have to do that. So when you show and exercise that etiquette back, it will come back to you if it's supposed to in the right form. So that's why I'm kind of it's kind of one of my pet peeves is trying to treat people the way you want to be treated, not just in business but in life in general. Is you get what you get back, you get what you give, right? And it's pretty selfish to act this way of checking your phones constantly. No, that's like so. I was in a breakout group, and I'm in Success Champion Networking, and we do these national meetings on Thursdays. And I probably told this story in another podcast and whatnot. But we have all these training exercises, which are great, which just quick plug. If you're looking for a networking group that's going to take you to the next level, check out Success Champion Networking. Kevin Snow, Donnie Bovine, they make a better mousetrap. My opinion, I'm partial to the way they do things. But we do these national training things, and there's always, your education, and it turns into a workshop, and we do breakout groups. So one of the breakout groups we were talking about finding time to do your cold calls and schedule and whatnot. And I happen to be in the group of four, the only real salesperson. These are all coaches, and coaches aren't really salespeople, right? They're there for different. I mean, we're all salespeople, but they don't see themselves this way. They see themselves as we help people, and therapists same way. But at the end of the day, you gotta learn how to sell. You gotta learn how to sell and close. Otherwise, you don't have customers. So I'm in there, and these three are very, very, very big on social media. They spend out of their 8 hour day, probably six of it, and I could be light here, following their social media. And these are all way more educated people than me and whatnot, but none of these people can hold a candle to me in sales. And so they were going on and on and on. I didn't interrupt at all. And then finally, one of them decided to say, Brian, you haven't said nothing. What's your thoughts on this? And I said, you guys are going to hate what I'm about to say, but you need to hear this. I said, nothing you say, tweet, post, respond to, anything is going to make or break anybody's life. So stop thinking that everything you say and do has to be immediately done. So you need to schedule that you're going to, at 9 a.m., get the fuck off your phones. Turn off your LinkedIn, turn off this, turn off that, and focus on your calls. Schedule it for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it needs. And they were like, I don't think I can do that. And I said, okay, put it this way. I said, what happens if you don't respond to somebody's smart ass post in the next 10 minutes? And they're like, well, we got to get back to a timely manner. I'm like, but it's not making you money. It's not moving you forward. And that's the way you got to look at it. If you want to be a social influencer, good for you. But at the end of the day, you got to learn how to sell. You got to find some credibility. And I'm talking these three people, very smart, very good in their industry, very knowledgeable, not people who should be struggling finding customers. I mean, honestly. And their biggest problem is they were being obsessed with being on their phones, checking their Facebook, checking their LinkedIn, checking all their Twitter to see who's watching, who's this. If I look at the eyeballs every time one of these popped up, and I really lived by, I don't give a shit how many people watch. I care how many people did it help. That's all that matters at the end of the day. When John Pukowski and I started this, I didn't know about how to set this up, but when him and I started, we used, every time we would look at it, we said, we could just reach one person and save them from a mistake that we made. This is worth it. We're not making money to do this. We don't care about making money to do this. It's about doing the right thing and paying it forward. And that's what I feel is business etiquette. When I'm meeting with you, be professional. And it shouldn't have to be said. It should be ingrained in you. It really should, because it's common sense. It's when you're having a conversation with your buddy and he's on his phone and he's not really listening to you. How do you feel? Well, That's your friend. Now take a customer who, and let's face it, we can all go, oh, I love so and so, they're part of the family and this and that. Really? Because at the end of the day, it is about my wallet. It is about my profit. It is about taking care of my employees, taking care of my family. So if you're going to disrespect me and do this, and you think that's okay, then you're doing it to my other family over here. You know, you can be a great person, but still be a jackass. I mean, I see it all the time. You're a really good person, but you know what? When it comes to business or it comes to, you're an asshole. You're conceited. You're stuck up. You don't. You know, it happens on a daily basis. So the etiquette is very important to make sure that you're relaying this and that you really are making sure you're sending the right signals at the right time and paying attention to what the customer says. And the other thing is etiquette is if you don't know for a fact you can do it, and I don't mean like someone says, "Oh yeah, we can do." I mean you need to know you can deliver this thing. Do not say it. Do not offer it up. Make sure you truly know because the salesperson said, "Oh yeah, well we can set up this and it works like this," and I'm sitting there going, "Huh? I'm the dumbass that freaking builds these sites, and you want to show me how I'm doing that? Because you're wrong. I can't do it that way. That's not how it works." You know. But again, I did not embarrass that salesperson. I did not throw them under the bus. I just said, no, we looked into that. We definitely looking at if that's something they need, and then we, move forward. And when the person left, they said, I don't know where you got that from, but we don't do that. That's not how it works. This is how it works. And they just looked at me like I'm stupid because I didn't, because they don't even sell my stuff and know anything about it, but they wanted to pretend to be a big person. So the etiquette really definitely you got to focus on it. It's definitely going to make or break you in a sale at some point in time. No matter how tight you think you are with a client, rude is rude at the end of the day. Okay, so keep that in mind. Next thing I wanted to talk about was intensity, and this is a thing that I do get criticized for a lot. I know where my shortcomings are. I try to fight them, but at the end of the day, my personality is my personality. I'm a very intense person. I go from 0 to 10 like that, flip of a switch. Always have my whole life. And I don't mean like flying off the handle. I mean, when I smell blood, I go for the kill. And I'm very good at recognizing when it's time to ask for the sale. And I'm very good at close. I hate the word close. I just freaking hate the word, but closing the deal to get to the next level. So finishing the step to move on. And sometimes you have to be intense. Sometimes your intensity is going to get you in trouble. I tell everyone, I'm not meant for everybody. I totally get that. Biggest sales mistake is salespeople think they can sell everybody all the time, and that's not true. Certain personalities aren't going to work for certain other personalities. Trying to adapt that. That's why you should have a sales team. And I'm so happy to have a diversity of people that I work with. And I hate saying the good cop, bad cop, but you learn how to play off each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I now know that I'm not for everybody. Like part of my part of my um, I'd say negative is I can come off too intense to try to get the deal done. And the reason being is I just I didn't come from a whole lot growing up, um, but but I never knew it, and I just you know I guess it comes out, and a lot of times what I did is I get very anxious um, to work with people that I really want to work with, so I do try to push through. I don't think it's backfired on me a whole lot in my sales career, but that could be because I'm meeting with the right customers and finding the matches. That's not always going to be the case. But what I love is being able to sit there and I've already done this. I'm like, hey, a friend of mine is starting here with us and say, hey, this is going to be a better fit for you. I'm going to open the door here, get things started just because you haven't started with us yet, but this is going to be you because I know you're going to do better with us. I'm a different personality. I'm probably not the best one, or you're more knowledgeable here than I am. And this person is more of a methodical, processes. oriented person, you're going to work better with them than me. I'm that emotion, intensity, you know, I like to do the creative side. That's just how I think and whatnot. So that's where my strength is. The other thing I've really noticed is I'm a face-to-face guy, and face-to-face Zoom is to me is still face-to-face. I hate being on the phone. Hate being on the phone because I'm not super good at it. Um, I mean, I do better than most people do. I mean, honestly, but it's not my strength. My strongest part is when I'm in front of you because I need to read you. I need to be able to see you. Um, so that makes a big difference to me. So intensity is going to play into it, and I've had this my whole life, from when I was in sports, from when I was in the army, to everything I do. Um, and I'm an extreme type of person. I live in, like I always say, like my norm is chaos. Like I like chaos. I like I like things happening that I have to shift on the fly with, move with. I'll be stressed as hell, but that's my calm and that's my norm, and that's where I feel comfortable. So I probably do it in my personal life as well, is look for chaos because that's my norm. So you tend to find these things, and by the way, I just got back from eating dinner with my brother. My father came up from Florida, and we were having this conversation, and like for him, like everything I do, like you can just see it, like in his eyes and his head, like it baffles him. How is this guy my son and thinks and does these things this way? And reality is I'm, in business, I'm way more successful than he was, but that wasn't his focus. His focus was he really enjoys recreation. He really enjoys, hanging out, playing golf, playing softball. This is where his enjoyment comes from. So his intensity level is there. And whether he'll admit it or not, he's intense when he's doing that because he wants to win. Well, mine is the opposite. I like playing sports and all that, but I realize that isn't going to get me paid. And I don't want my kids to struggle the way that I struggled growing up. I don't ever want my kids to have to live in their car until they find a place to live because they didn't plan right or didn't have the right money, or their car break down and not know how they're going to get to work or get to school or whatnot. I don't ever want my kids to know that. So I've lived a very intense life that has forced me to make sure that there's always something there if something fell through, and then I could shift on the fly and pay for this or pay for that, and that's part of my intensity. Unfortunately, I'm like that in my personal life. Is I'm tend to be an all or nothing guy, and doesn't work for everyone. Learning how to live with it and how to deal with it, and be less intense, or to be able to turn it on and off as needed, and relax a little bit. And as I'm finding that the ability to control my intensity in different situations is making a big difference, both in personal and in business. Um, Finding that the way a customer, the big part of why you're having a conversation in a sales call is nothing more than a conversation between two people. And that's what it should be. Because at the end of that conversation, you need to know, are you guys good fits for each other? And you may not be. But part of that is helping me with that intensity level of calming down, having a meaningful conversation, and see where it goes. And then once I establish, now my intensity can pick up because now I have action items. So learning to turn it down and be a real human being and having real conversations has made a world of difference in there. So the intensity part is definitely a trial and error thing for you and your personality, and you got to find where it goes. Don't overthink it. At the end of the day, no one sells you better than you. Nobody can tell your story better than you. No one can be you better than you. So at the end of the day, that's what it's really all about. And you know what, guys? It's okay to not be liked by everybody. It's okay to fail, because when you fail, then you get to succeed again. You get to try again. And and it's funny. We just had this conversation, my father and I, because um, of negativity. Like he thinks like, oh man, this is so negative. And I told him, you're negative, you just don't realize it. And it's trying to figure out, like, in your eyes, you think you're being positive, but if I could record you and hear how you talk to me, you're not very positive when you're talking to me. You're saying a lot of negatives at me, thinking that you're being positive, but you're really putting me down because I'm not like you. And it's never intentional, but that's reality. And it's hard for people to step back and be able to see that because it's different. It's not them. Everyone has a different personality. We're all molded by our environment and what we grew up in and how we adapted and overcame any obstacles that came in front of us or didn't. And like we had this conversation, there will probably never be a day that I ever look in the mirror and I'm physically happy with the appearance that I see because of what I went through growing up. And part of it has to do with how my father talked to me when I was a young kid. Part of it had to do how other people talked to me. And the other things had to do with, you know, the way I just perceive myself. But a lot of it has to do with the way that people talk to you. And then you start talking to yourself. So Lori Seitz really is the one who pulled this out of my head, even though I knew it before, but she's the one who made the biggest difference in getting through my head is when I first met her, talking about how you talk to yourself is a self-reflection. So when you talk to yourself negatively, you're going to react and respond negatively, whether you think you will or not. So you and I'm not talking. We joke around about the SNL skit of something Smalls. I forgot what his name is now. Where he goes, "I am a good person. Everybody likes me." Reality is, you got to do that shit, man. You gotta do that. It's going to help with your intensity levels. It's going to calm you down, but it's also going to help with your esteem and being able to have real conversations with people because now you're out of your head. You're out of your head and you're focused on where you want to go. So, folks, that's what I have for this week. And this will be up on the podcast probably in a day or two. It usually takes to go up. I appreciate anyone that chimed in live and whatnot. And again, any questions, anything like that, check out the scroll below. Email me, tattooedinbusiness@gmail.com. Love to hear your comments. Message me. Always open. Any topics you want to hear, let me know. So thank you, everyone. And this is Brian Merrill, Tattooed in Business. Everybody, you have a great night and a great week.